Welcome to our AM Lockport Toastmasters meeting. In terms of announcements, I believe it was recently Jackie's birthday. So let's all wish Jackie a very warm and happy birthday. And with that, I believe it's time for the Pledge of Allegiance.
No, we got to do the inspiration.
Oh, okay. The inspiration. So I believe that's Jen Zapla. Please inspire us.
I am your inspirational master today. Fellow Toastmasters, may our minds be enlightened with truth, our hearts inflamed with love, our wills inspired with courage, and our lives enriched with service. Forgive our past flaws, affirm who we are, and may we always be inspired to grow into our best selves. Thank you.
Amen.
All right. Larry, since you have the proper background, do you want to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any additional announcements for us today?
I do.
Go ahead, Phil Russell.
Very quick. For those that are looking for entertainment on Sunday afternoon, the Jimmy Sansone and Dave Conlon Quartet will be playing down at the Gazebo in Alcott on Sunday afternoon. And that is great jazz. And they get some great musicians coming in. Enough said.
Excellent. All right, and with that, I believe I will turn it over to Larry as the Toastmaster of the day. Take it away, Larry.
Taking it away. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody's going to have a good morning. I look out, it is sunny and bright out there. I need a couple of jobs filled. First of all, Mike Florio, I know you volunteered for Quizmaster, but Marty Johnson snuck in there and signed up for it on the website. Would you be available to be an evaluator?
Sure. I haven't done that in a while. Yeah, why not?
You may be off the hook because I only have one speaker so far. So you'll be in the bullpen in case the other two speakers show up. Having said that, I also need two speakers. Tracy Farrell was scheduled, but I don't see her on. And Jill had an issue that she couldn't speak today. So if anybody has a hip pocket speech, please feel free to volunteer. More than happy to have a second speaker. If not, we're going to have a really long table topics. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. All right, again, good morning. We did the inspiration. Why don't we start with the word master? I know Tom has probably been thinking about this for a week now, and I'm sure he's come up with an excellent word today to augment our topic of the day, our subject of the day.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I have come up with a word for the day, and this word requires enunciation because it can be confused with another word very easily. And given the theme of this morning's meeting of inspiration, I've chosen the word incorrigible, ENCOURAGEABLE, not to be confused with incorrigible, which is an entirely different meaning. Incorrigible means able to be, it's an adjective, means able to be encouraged. So everyone use that word while speaking today. I will keep track of the number of uses and report back when asked by the Toastmaster of the day. Thank you, Toastmaster.
Excellent word, Tom. Thank you. Incorrigible. And I think enunciation, like you said, is very important for that word. Certainly the other one has a whole different meaning to it. And using the word today, incorrigible, one of the reasons I picked the topic for today, which was inspirational people, was because of Charlie Deacon. And I know a couple of you had attended his wake locally here, and I know several of us were at the church last weekend. And when I realized, found out I was Toastmaster, I'd been thinking about Charlie all the time. I've known him at Toastmasters, and many of you have known him a lot longer than I did, but he was always one of those people that inspired me, the way he carried himself. And as he progressed through his life, I was able to be lucky enough to know him at the end of his life, and he was having some physical issues, but he never let that stop him. And that always inspired me, that he would limp into the meeting sometimes, and he would get up there and with that booming voice, and even though you knew he was from a physical perspective, certainly was having some challenges. So as we go through the day today, as I call on you to do a job, just if you could think about an inspirational person, give me a 5 or 10 second, this is one of the people in my life that inspired me and why, and we'll just kind of keep moving through that. But as I'm sure we've all had inspirational people in our lives, and we'll talk about it as we go along a little bit further. So our next job holder is the Master, and I see Kate is here, but I don't see her face on the, oh, there she is. Kate, you're the Master.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I will listen to our ahs and ums, and I will be in the studio shortly, but I am driving over there at the moment. I will be able to hear your, but please, and I believe the word is incorrigible.
Okay, yeah, we're having a little
encouraged us all to be incorrigible. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Ah, there she is.
You can't touch your screen for the Tech Master. You can't touch your screen and block yourself off by accident if you're trying to drive. I hope you could hear me. I think that Charlie was very encouraging, and I love that he brought back stories from all his travels and gave us ways to improve our club and ourselves. He encouraged us all the time. Thanks so much, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thanks, Kate. We will see you hopefully soon in studio. That's a good way to put that. Our quote master, Mr. Wilkerson.
Good morning. My person that encouraged me was, of course, Marilyn. I think she encouraged us all with all her worldly travels and everything else she did. Today's quote I have is from Albert Einstein. There are only two ways to live your life. One is through as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Jim. Our next person on the job list is our jester. Mr. Jones, do you have an uplifting jest for us this morning?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. And I would say those that inspire me are all of you. Your commitment to Toastmasters. We got Tom, who's out of town and waking up an hour early. We got Dave, who is a founding member, and all of you with your longevity inspire me to continue along my journey of public speaking. And one of the people that inspire me, I came across a joke. A senior citizen is driving down the expressway, and the cell phone rings. He picks it up, and it's his wife, and she's in a panic. She says, "I'm watching the news, and there's a car. It's driving down the wrong way on the expressway. Please be careful." He says, "Heck, not just one car. All of the cars are driving the wrong way." Back to you, Larry. I was going to throw the word "fill" in there, but I didn't do that.
I guess it's all a matter of perception. All right, thanks, Dave. Our timer from Studio C is, and I'm looking for him on here, I did see him on here, is Dave Licata, Mr. Licata. There he is, waving at me.
Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster. We had an economics teacher back at DeSales. His name was the Right Reverend William A. Kenny. Oblate of St. Francis de Sales. Of course, we called him Wild Bill, and I found him very encouraging because he treated my homeroom, which I got to be frank with you folks, we weren't the sharpest tools in the shed when it came to academia, but he did inspire us, and he led us on to some pretty good scores on the nation or the statewide test. So I've always been inspired by that. But to be more local, because everything's local, is that Len Thornton has always inspired me to be more technically advanced. So he's going to be so proud of me today. Ready? Green. Yellow. Red. And Lenny, you'll be proud of me. I didn't draw these freehand. I set one circle aside, made 2 copies on the copier, and then I found my crayons. Thank you so much, Mr. Toastmaster. But briefly, have we upped the table topics to 2.5, or is it still 2:15?
With the buffer, it's 2:15. It's 1:30, 1:45 in 2 minutes.
Okay, that's a deal. And the evaluations are 2:30, and then we will time the speech, or I hope speeches. We'll time them at the designated time that the speaker and or evaluator gives me. Thank you. I'm so proud to be so high tech.
Thank you, Dave. I also am in awe of your technical skills.
I know.
So great job. Our next job holder is our tech and gesture master, Tom Heldline. Mr. Heldline.
Good morning, AM Lockport. I want to help everyone this morning with their gestures. Put them in there. I already like the fact that, Len, you used the word think, and that is the proper sign for that. That's great. I'll be looking at how we work technology-wise, which I'm having difficulty with this morning myself, and everyone's gestures throughout the meeting and reporting back at the end. I would say encourage is such an easy word to use, but encourageable. I'm gonna have to work on that for the end of the meeting. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Tom. Our next job holder is our quizmaster, Marty Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good morning. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. As quizmaster this morning, I will be not only testing my own listening skills, but your listening skills as well. I will come up with some information learned throughout the meeting, and I will ask questions regarding that at the end of the meeting. If I were to think of someone that inspired me in my life, it would definitely be my father, James Johnston, and my son, Adam Johnston, who just graduated from the auto tech program at BOCES yesterday. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty, and congratulations. It's always nice when you see your children succeed. I know both my kids, as they've gone through their lives, it's nice to see as they succeed. It takes a lot of worry off your back, at least it did for us, certainly. So congratulations. Before we go on to table topics, I just wanted to talk a little bit about inspirational people. And what I liked as I watched everybody give their short talk on someone that inspired them, I was pleasantly surprised that everybody talked about somebody personal and local, as opposed to these international world people. I looked up the 25 people that are most inspirational in the world. I just kind of wanted to see what the list was as I was preparing this. And the names were all there: Gandhi, Socrates, Martin Luther King, Einstein, Muhammad, Jesus Christ, Napoleon, of all people, go figure, Da Vinci, Newton, and the list was pretty long. But it was a montage, I guess, of all those people with, we would think, like worldly leaders, worldly inspirational people. And it was really, I was very impressed that everybody brought it into a more personal setting, talking about somebody that inspired them. Because when I look at people that inspired me throughout my life, it wasn't those famous people that you read about in history. It was my father, it was my grandfather, who was a Buffalo police officer, which is the reason I became a police officer. It was my daughter, 14-year-old daughter, surviving cancer. So as you watch and look at people that inspire you, it's nice to see that everybody went took a personal approach to that, because I think we've all had those people in our lives that have inspired us. And you can pick one or two or three, and there's always one that probably stands out among them all. But if you look at our lives, it's that grouping of people that inspired you, that pushed you in certain directions to do certain things. And so again, I'm very impressed with that. The one thing I wanted to talk about too, before we go a little further, since I have a little time, because we only have two speakers, is the fact that each of you might be that person that's inspiring someone else. And I know in the group here, you probably, like I am, you just don't think about yourself as an inspirational person. You're more looking at other people that inspired you. But I put it to you that each of you, as I'm looking at the screen here, has probably inspired someone to do great things as well in their lives. So try to keep that in the back of your mind. It's a bit humbling. Just to tell you kind of a funny story, when I was still on the job as a police officer, we were having the downtown concerts. If you remember those, it was 90-degree day, 90% humidity. I'm wearing this horribly hot blue uniform. And there's 10,000 people listening to this concert, and I'm in security, so I'm on the outside of it. And all of a sudden, I see this guy, and he's walking at me. Now it's 90 degrees. It's humid as you can possibly imagine. Sunny, Florida hot. Here comes this guy. All he's got on is a pair of shorts. He's a little bit overweight. Certainly isn't in good shape. He got a pair of flip-flops on, and he's got a beer in each hand. And you've seen this where somebody just kind of rivets on you, and he stares at me, and I went, oh no. So here comes this drunken, sweaty guy. And as he gets closer, he's got his arms out, and he wants a hug. 90 degrees, humid, drunk, sweaty. I stopped him, put my hand up, and he's crying, and he wants to hug me. So, why do you want to hug me? Sobbing. When I was 15 years old, I was on the corner dealing drugs. This is him talking. He said, you pulled up in a police car, you grabbed me by the back of my neck, threw me in the police car, took me home to my parents, read me the riot act. My parents beat me up when I got home for dealing drugs. And I'm like, I don't remember this guy. So I still got the arm out. I said, okay. They said, tell me my name. He knew my name. I said, okay. He says, you changed my life. Now I got to listen. He says, I turned my life around. I stayed in school. I got my high school diploma. I joined the Marines, went overseas, and I served my country. I said, okay, I'm getting better with this, even though he's still sweating like crazy and still wants this hug. He says, I got shot over in Iraq when I was there 3 times. And he shows me the bullet wounds, and they were true bullet wounds because he didn't have a shirt on. He says, and I just got to hug you. I said, come here. Gave him a big hug. He walked away. And as dumb as that story was, it let me know that, and we don't get a lot of thank yous in law enforcement too, just to give you an example. So when he walked away, I was like, man, maybe you do make an impression on people and you just don't know it. And so I took my uniform home that night and washed it because it smelled the same way he did. But it was worth the hug.
Excuse me, Larry, if I may, I will be giving you a speech if you would like one, 5 to 7 minutes.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Phil.
Okay.
And I'm glad you got me thinking about, we didn't do a toast.
You so encouraged me.
Encouraged. Oh, good. Good. It's going to be a good day. If we could raise our glasses to give a quick toast, a simple toast to those people in our lives, those inspirational people that got us where we are today. Hear, hear. All right. The next job holder And oh, by the way, Mike Florio, that means that you will be evaluating speaker number 2. So you'll be evaluating Phil Russell, if that's
Oh,
okay.
boy,
I know it's a heavy lift.
tough job, but I'm
All right.
incorrigible.
Incorrigible, absolutely. Let me turn this meeting over to our table topics master, Margot Sue Bettner.
Good morning, everyone. Before I do my job, actually, Jackie Kenny, are you on this morning? Would you like to tell us what you're doing today?
I am, and I am the grammarian. I'll be listening. Hopefully, I will listen to a lot of very good grammar this morning. I encourage all of you to use your best grammar, and I will take note of anything that doesn't come quite up to the standards. Thank you, Margot.
You're welcome, Jackie. Thank you. Yes, and having her as your grammarian today must encourage more or be encourageable for more people than having me do the job. In any case, everybody lights up a room. Every single person. Some by entering, some by leaving, and some by arson. We've all had those people in our lives. So somebody who lights up the room by entering, as Dave has already shared with us, is a teacher. So I was wondering, Sylvia, have you had a teacher in your life who's inspired you? And please remember to use the word of the day, encourageable. Sylvia Baptiste.
Well, thank you, Marco, and well, hello, everyone. Encourageable person or inspiring. Yes, I came from a small neighborhood school in Niagara Falls. You're going to hear the twang and the grammar should be much better than it is, but somewhere along the line I missed the boat on that. But Mrs. Barber, my 4th grade teacher, had the most beautiful handwriting ever. And I would practice every night of writing like her. I wanted my cursive to be beautiful like hers. But also she had some good stories. She was very knowledgeable. She traveled a lot in her life. Her and her husband, she did have a family. And she just inspired me of not only writing beautifully, but just looking at the world. Go travel, go see things. And that just made, not leaving Niagara Avenue very often. Our vacations were staycations. My father was painting the house every summer, it felt like, so we didn't go anywhere. And when we did get a chance to, we just moved things. We went to Boston, we went to Georgia to see my brother, and we went to Pennsylvania many times to see relatives. So even though they were small travels, but now we're doing more, bigger travels. Just came back from Florida and making plans to go to Arizona soon to see my sister and my brother-in-law. So she just had that language and the feel, and just to get everyone in the mood of traveling and get off of our little block. So that's who Mrs. Barber was. She was a really nice teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Val, there's an for you, Kate. Every now and then, I know most of us listed local people. However, sometimes there's somebody in history who inspires you. So I was wondering, Steve, if you could sit down with some historical figure and have a cup of coffee or a beer or whatever and ask them some questions, who would it be? Steve Smith.
Ah, there we go. Now that's an interesting question. The first name that springs to my mind that I would love to talk to would be one of my favorite writers, Edgar Allan Poe. The man's whole life was a mystery. So I'd like to ask him, first of all, what did you die from? His death was surrounded in mystery. He was found dead in somebody else's clothes. And nobody knows the story. It's been remained in mystery all these years. So I'd like to, that's a strange question to ask someone. How did you die? I'm not sure that will be considered encourageable or not, asking somebody that. But he had a very strange mind. He had to have to come up with some of the stories he did, so much so that his critics accused him of having to be on drugs to come up with this. And unfortunately, that reputation stuck with him that he was a druggie. He wasn't. He just had a very vivid imagination. Some of the scenes he painted in words are very macabre. I've always enjoyed his work. I love reciting his work when I get a chance. That's probably my second passion after astronomy would be the horror movies. Those were all my heroes growing up, the horror writers, unlike the standard writers. But that's just a little look inside my warped mind. Thank you, Mrs. Table Topic Master.
Thank you. And every now and then, some of us are inspired or encouraged by somebody at work or somebody we've met in our volunteer work. There's somebody who says, wow, you can reach higher. What can you do? So I was wondering, Len Thornton, who's inspired you?
Oh, Madam Topic Master, that's an easy one. I have a longtime friend, and he's also a client of mine, Lion Richard Cook from the Lancaster. No, he's a Buffalo Coast Lion, and he inspired me about 20 years ago when I was on the fence, kind of between jobs and considering starting my own business. I asked him what the most important qualifications were for starting business. He was a sole proprietor in accounting and tax services. He's since expanded into an investment as well for his clients. And he had a small business on Millersport Highway. And I asked him what the most important thing was, because you're never sure when to take that leap. He said, do it when you're young, when you have the energy. Doesn't matter what you know. Age and energy are big factors. So I did take his advice. I started my business about 19 years ago, and it's still running. And I thank him for that every time I see him. He's still doing his thing as well. I would hope to be encourageable to my two sons in their college careers and their vocations, which they choose afterward. They've each had some rough semesters related to COVID. These are difficult times, especially when you're just starting in college. But I'm trying to be less critical as a father and more encourageable always. Madam Topic Master.
Thank you very much. And with that, Mr. Moran, may we please have a word master report? How did encourageable do today with our speakers?
Madam Table Topic Master, I am pleased to announce that all of the Table Topics participants this morning used the word of the day, encourageable.
Thank you very much. And I see Dave has already unmuted himself. Dave, how did the timing go?
I'm happy to report that all three of our table topic speakers qualified. Sylvia used a little buffer time, but she only used 1 second of it at 2:16. Steve was kind of quick at 1:30, and Len matched Steve in his quickness. So he is 1:30 as well, and they all qualified, Margot.
Thank you very much, Dave. And with that, I will turn it back over to our Toastmaster of the day, Larry Eggert.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Let me just throw my vote in here really quick. There we go. Okay. If we could do some quick housekeeping. I've seen in the chat that there is some confusion, probably because of some speaker issues we had at the beginning of the meeting. So let me just go through the speakers and evaluators so everybody kind of knows who's speaking and who's evaluating. So speaker one is Samir Rahman. and he's going to be evaluated by Beth Banks. Speaker 2 is Phil Russell. He's filling in for Joe Roaring. He'll be evaluated by Mike Florio. And Speaker 3 is Tracy Farrell. I think I saw her pop on. Yep, there she is. And she'll be evaluated by Moklis Rahman. Now, Moklis, if you look on the agenda, her Tracy's information is on there for the worksheet and everything. So I apologize for the confusion. Is everybody good with that? No objections, no complaints? This is probably a bad time to introduce the general evaluator, but let me introduce the general evaluator today, Dr. Stevens.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Thank you for the introduction. I hope today I will find some people that will be encourageable and maybe inspire me in the future endeavors of today, and maybe even I'll be inspired by some of these evaluations that I hope to see. In general, I am to evaluate the Toastmaster and the upcoming evaluators. I look forward to it.
All right, thank you, Dr. Stevens. We can get right into our speaking portion now. Excuse me. Our first speaker is, as I said, Samir Rahman, and he'll be evaluated by Beth Banks. So Beth, would you like to introduce Samir? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Yes, I will introduce Samir. Samir is working from Pathways Visionary Communication, and his title is a little different than is in the agenda, but the title is the, Kate, stop telling me what to do.
Oh.
Yes, his title is Facilitate Positive Change by Embracing Necessary Conflict. He will be giving a 5 to 7 minute speech about that topic. So thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you.
Try this. Let me unmute myself first, Sam. Sorry about that. All right. Sam Rahman is speaker 1, facilitating positive change. Sam, go ahead.
Thank you, Larry. All change implies this conflict with the status quo, but embracing this reality can help clarify one's actions and help one improve internal control in any setting. Let's explore this conceptual framework from the micro to the macro level. Change is all around us. It's increasingly accelerating these days, yet managing it remains an age-old problem, a source of conflict in all of our lives. For me in my life, both my parents served as an inspiration for this direct approach. And perhaps others who are parents themselves can appreciate this perspective as uniquely requiring the approach of direct intervention or conflict to correct mistakes, whether it's externally learned in youthful, incorrigible moments from either friends or the media, or perhaps erroneously gleaned from the parent's own personal mistakes. Delineating what is and what's definitely to be, as well as one's goals within the context of that, or the goals of one's organization, are many basic things that need reinforcement. Such thinking is critical throughout the process of deliberating over action, as well as evaluating the situation and requiring one to continuously adhere to these for maximal likelihood of success in achieving those goals. At the personal level, where you find yourself in your career can often be a strategic inflection point, leading to extended internal or short-term external conflict with the potential for improvement. The psychological immune system that all of us have allows us to reframe our options and actions according to the reality we experience, but more importantly, the reality we create in our own minds. Personally, my supervisors in my career as a management and IT consultant inspired this approach, as embracing change has been critical to exemplifying the means to advance one's own career quite successfully. Specifically, any specific scope changes or change order requests are opportunities for growth. Choosing to embrace change allows one's mindset to grow into the challenge of whatever specific change is occurring And that way one can more easily navigate the conflicts to whatever course of action you're choosing. But making the choice to change is often the most difficult first step you have to choose in order to succeed. Making these decisions and then tracking to it can enhance one's internal locus of control, and that over time makes it easier to manage future conflicts and changes, both psychologically and in actuality. At the organizational level, as with any bureaucracy, it requires a lot more work for evaluation, as the stakeholders and the connections between them, the issues amongst each other, tend to multiply. Formal change processes are important and can help this, but they can also be undermined by misaligned objectives, as well as incentives that are perhaps counterproductive. Consequently, dysfunctional objectives crop up in individuals within the organization. To succeed overall, then, it helps for managers or other executives to understand that these conflicts and conflicting objectives are a natural part of change. So that way, surfacing them early on can help you resolve them, especially before such behaviors become entrenched within the process of change itself, perhaps preventing your organization from achieving the goals you wanted to. On a locally related note, embracing the conflict of change in one's own perceptions about life, from a childhood desire to an adult's understanding of what is required to achieve certain goals, either in life, maybe monetarily, or even as one in terms of personal growth or in one's career, can be reflected throughout the modern media. There are versions of this reflected in public-facing activities, such as achieving a goal of a political office or some other type of externally derived success. Overall, change feels difficult, but by embracing the difficulties with a clear vision, change is a greater opportunity for success. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you, Sam. Great job. Our second speaker, who stepped up to the plate this morning, is Phil Russell. He'll be evaluated by Mr. Mike Florio. Mike.
Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Phil is stepping up to the plate again with a hip pocket speech, always encourageable to the group. And he is going to be speaking from the Visionary Communications Level 5, Effective Lessons, 5 to 7 minutes. The title of Phil's speech is The Journey Continues, 5 to 7 minutes. Phil Russell.
All right, thanks, Mike. I guess no more introduction is needed. Mr. Phil Russell. Oh, he's got his finger up. That's not a good sign.
Well, Walter, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, let me tell you a little story. I went into the post office and the postmaster, she told me this individual hasn't picked up his mail in several weeks, a long time. I said, oh, who is it? Where does he live? Oh, okay. It's Walter. I found out where he lives. I called Adult Protective Agency and the Niagara County Sheriff's Department. Once before, they had to do a well check, where that means the sheriff goes over, checks, make sure he's okay. He went over. Walter was okay, but he hadn't eaten in 10 days. He was passing out. He was not doing very well. The sheriff went, got him some food, coffee, got in touch with Adult Protective. Things started to have action. See, Walter's 97 years old. My path is living to be 106. Now, if you remember my last speech, Walter keeps inspiring me. Well, I went over to visit Walter, see how he's doing. That's what you have to do. You can't hear. He lives in a small house. It's not the best, but he keeps himself very warm. He gets cold. During the winter, he was very cold. Heat was on. Adult protective comes over. He says, this is not the living conditions any of you would probably want to live in, but it's what he wants. He came to Wilson maybe at the age of 16, and he lived in a barn, and he worked on the farms. He ate when he could, kept going. He worked his way up, stayed in places. He worked for one of our other citizens here, and Red told me, he said, that's the best worker I've ever had. Great guy. Now he got a house. House was helped. People helped him get that house because Walter was always helping people. Now, what did Walter do? Well, he did all kinds of odd jobs, worked on farms, hard-working guy, great laborer. And he kept going, and he had what he had. Red told me, he said he came into the house one day and his wall was stacked with food. He says, Walter, why do you have so much food in here? He says, well, let me tell you a little story. You may not know what hunger is. I do, and I'm not going to be that way again. Okay, Walter, nice story. I go over to visit Walter. He's doing a little better. Hadn't seen people. People hadn't seen him. His truck was in the yard. It hadn't been moved. We're not going to get it fixed. That's for sure. Now, he's a small guy, little bitty guy. He has a hard time getting around, but he's strong, very strong. Came over from Poland. Now, if you know Poles, industrious, hardworking, very smart. And if you think that these jokes, I always have one of my best friends is Polish, and we always tell Polish jokes and Irish jokes and that just to lighten the mood. And it's not true what they said. Any country that will go up against the German Nazis, against their tanks with horses, rifles, rocks, and stones, they're tough. They're tough. That's Walter, toughest guy. But I went over to visit him. What do you need, Walter? Well, we went through, I got him some food and things over the local grocery store. I go back, we started talking. Well, what do you else you need, Walter? Well, there was two specific things that he had to have, he wanted. Beer, number one. Number two, cookies. Now at 97, I think he can eat whatever the heck he wants. People hadn't seen him for years. Now he's been inspiring me because I went in, he says, this is what I live for. He has all these girly magazines up on the wall, all these pinups. He loves the girls. When the ladies come down to deliver Meals on Wheels, he loves it. He's always been a ladies' man. He always will be. The one lady that delivers Meals on Wheels, have known him for years. He says he never changes. He's always been that way. He's a ladies' man. And then the one picture, though, he said, this is what inspires me. And it's a picture of a lady. I can't remember who it is. It's on Parade magazine, you know, Parade magazine newspaper. And it says, all I live for is to be happy. And if you remember one of those things that I had on my 4 things to do, happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Happy. That's Walter. He wants to be happy. Now I bring him beer and cookies. Other people are bringing food, you know, Meals on Wheels, or whatever they call it now. I go over there, I see the sheriff. He says, He brings them over coffee. Then I come over. Roxy's there. She's a real character on oh God, I'm having a senior moment on Tradio in the morning. She's a character, and she's known him for 55 years. People now are cutting his grass. People are helping him out. He says, how come people are helping me out? I said, Walter, you spent a lifetime helping others out. It's a little give back time. The journey continues. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thanks, Phil, and thanks for stepping up. Our third speaker is Miss Tracy Farrell, and she'll be evaluated by Moklis Rama. Mr. Rama.
Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters, and our speaker, Tracy Farrell. It's indeed a pleasure to introduce Tracy because I've seen her speak and develop. And what did I just do? Timing is 10 to 12 minutes. It's L5, innovative planning, reflecting on completing the journey in the path.
All right. Thank you, Moklis. You're just so you know, you might have a little technical glitch going on there, just to kind of keep it in the back of your mind. All right, Tracy Farrell, what did I just do? Tracy, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. And what did I just do? I just completed my path, and this is the first path that I've done since Toastmasters has come out with pathways, and that was almost 2.5 years ago. Yeah, it's taken me that long to work through this and complete this path. When I first started, my goal was, oh, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to complete this as soon as I can. I'm going to get my second path done. I'm going to get my DTM. Somehow life got in the way, but I'm okay with that because as I've gone through Toastmasters in this path, I've also learned that I'm not only here for the education, but I'm really enjoying the process and I'm learning more as if I take my time. One of the reasons I chose innovative planning is because I've seen a lot of project managers out. I've met a lot of them and I've always been impressed with them. They've been able to complete projects, are so well organized, and they never get stressed out. Actually, when I was in school, through our program, we worked with cohorts to go through the graduation process, and one of my cohorts was a project manager. She was extremely organized, and every week she would take our assignments, organize them, set little goals. And then Sunday night, every week, we would get this email from her telling us what we had to do for the week. At the time, I thought she was the most incorrigible person. I just drove me nuts. I spent a lot of time trying to find her a boyfriend just so she would have something to do except for send us these emails. But the truth is, my cohort finished first in our graduation class, and I know it's in no small part to her keeping us organized and divvying up the projects and encouraging us along the way. We really had a pretty impressive class, and she might not have been the smartest one, but her project management skills is what drove my cohort to the top. So for this project, I was really asked to sit back and reflect on what I've accomplished in this path. And at first, a couple of days ago, I was thinking, well, I don't know if I really learned a lot about project management. But as all things Toastmasters, they give us a worksheet, we have to fill it out and reflect on this. So when I sat down, I kind of realized, okay, I have had a couple of Toastmasters achievements. I've been an area director, and I did sponsor the Buffalo Junior Service League Club that's now known as a league of our own. And through this process, I've learned a couple of things I might not have if I wasn't in this path. The first one is you really have to have a clear vision of what you want your outcome to be. You can't really be wishy-washy, and you have to be prepared to accomplish those. I've kind of learned this as I've gone into meetings. It's like I have to be prepared and have my homework done. And I know all of us, when we've gone into meetings, whether it be for work or for a volunteer organization, conversations often get off track. And this is where Toastmasters is really good because we always have an agenda. We know who's going to be speaking. We know how long they're going to be speaking. So we never get off track. I think it's the most frustrating thing in the world to attend a meeting and at the end realize nothing was accomplished and we'll meet again next week to discuss the same things. Another danger of meetings is people not being prepared. I've gone to a lot of meetings where the members are just all bobbleheads and they'll agree with anything that's put before them because they haven't done their homework and aren't prepared to defend their decisions. Once again, that's another ineffective meeting. And it's a lot more effective to do your homework, be prepared, defend your decisions, and how you're going to reach your goals. The second thing I've learned is you really have to have a timeline as to when you're going to complete your goals. That kind of sounds funny for me because I work in government and we have no timelines in government, but there's some good reasons for that. And I also know I've worked in the private sector also, and I know everything was due yesterday. And if you haven't completed it, you just cost the company a whole lot of money. So actually, the truth is you really have to be somewhere in the middle. You have to be realistic in your timelines and what you want to do. You can't be sloppy and rush through them, but you have to have those goalposts in order to keep your project moving along. And I kind of learned that as area director. They really set up those goals for us. We had to visit every single club twice, once in the fall, once in the spring. And they told us we had to have these reports in at a certain time. So those goalposts kind of kept that project moving along. Third, you really have to decide when you're going to meet these small little goals. My project manager, friend is in school, she was great at these net charts and they were all color coded and said who was going to do what and when. That's really not me. I'm still old school. I like my day planner and my calendar. And to me, it's a lot easier putting things in my calendar. That way I know when I'm going to do something and when. And as a district officer, it's really hard to balance both your work life and a job. So if something's in my calendar, it really gave me a chance to schedule my meetings. I knew I could get this meeting on my lunch hour. I knew that I could do something else at night. Really looking at my calendar instead of a chart that I would never go back to look at was more helpful for me. Just having those things in my calendar and the small steps in that process really relieves a lot of that pressure. And as you kind of remember, my high performance project was for Rotary. I put together a public awareness program for Rotary on the I'm sorry, I just saw my timing. The public awareness program on a campaign for polio awareness. And this really wasn't one big project. It was a lot of smaller projects that went along the way. And my calendar was invaluable in letting me know when each project was to be completed. Next is we really got to realize that we don't accomplish all of these goals ourselves. We need somebody who's going to mentor us along these goals. And I've learned there's two types of mentors. There's those relationship mentors that really work with us. They stand behind us because they know us and they believe in us. In our group, I kind of look at the membership and who's driving membership, and the relationship director and mentor in our club. I'm going to tell you, Kate, that's you. You've brought so many people into our club just because you've known people, and all of your friends are here and they stay. The other type of mentor is a production mentor, and that person's really the expert in their field, and they really know how to achieve results. And we all know that that's Dave Licata in our group. Every single visitor that comes to our club, you ask them, oh, how did you hear about Toastmasters? And they'll tell us a story like, Dave's been telling me about this little AM Lockport Toastmasters Club for the last 15 years. They meet at Tom's Diner. So 15 years later, I decided I'd come and check them out. But that's what a production manager does. They keep going and going, and finally they get a hit and they win. And we know that's why Dave's so successful in his sales career. In the end, it really doesn't matter which type of mentor you have, as long as they help you and get you through the process. The final step is reflecting, and that's where I am right now in this path. To me, it feels a little grade schoolish, but to be honest, it's probably one of the most important steps in this path or any endeavor that we take. And I can tell you this because my planner, every single week, it says to sit down and reflect on your week. What goals did you accomplish? What didn't you accomplish? And why didn't you accomplish those goals? Kind of gives you a different angle of how you're going to accomplish your goals. I know a lot of times I sit back and I realize, oh, you know what? I need to take this extra step this week. And a lot of times on my diet, I sit there, I log everything in a journal about what I eat for my diet, and that keeps me going. And I realize sometimes, okay, I've had Oreos Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. Oh my gosh. And then Friday, I wonder why my jeans aren't fitting me so well. And I can't blame the dryer anymore. That's because I have to take responsibility for those Oreos. So in the end, you really have to evaluate where you're going and why you're going. And it's really good to look back on your path. Sometimes you really don't have to stay on the same path. I've realized I don't want to complete my path in a year or 2 years. I'm going to enjoy the process, and that's okay. In the end, I've learned that innovative planning isn't just about having a direction and a checklist that you mark off every single day. There's always going to be differences in your goals, and innovative planning is the ability to overcome those obstacles. And that's what I took away from this path. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tracy. Mr. Wordmaster, could we have a Wordmaster report on our 3 speakers?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Our speakers this morning, is that what you wanted? Just the speakers?
Just the speakers, yeah.
Tracy used the word 1.5 times. Let me explain the half. If you use the word encouragement, I gave you a half a point. Samir, I did not hear use the word, nor Phil. So Tracy is the only speaker this morning that used the word encouragement. Oh, well, I'm sorry, encourageable. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Mr. Licata, could we have a timers report, please?
Certainly. Samir, you missed the buffer by 3 seconds. You did 4:27. Had you done 4:30, you would have qualified. Phil did qualify with 7:10, and Tracy did 11:19. And we're having trouble with the word of the day today because it's incorrigible, but it came from the incorrigible Tom Moran.
So we will vote today for either Tracy or Phil. If you could cast your ballot, I see it pop up on the screen here. And you can cast your vote. Let's get into the evaluation portion as everybody is finishing up their voting. Our first evaluator evaluating our first speaker is Beth Banks. Mrs. Banks.
Thank you, Master Toastmaster. I hope that Samir, you are incorrigible so that I can give you some advice here. You truly excelled at giving us a lot of information about your topic. That is very good. You're obviously interested in your topic. You have good eye contact. So those are some things that I really liked about your speech. Some things you may need to work on. And I think we all do that. We think putting a background for Zoom is good. And you have a lot of different backgrounds, I've noticed. That's very good. But it's difficult because if you move even a little, the halo around yourself becomes very obvious. Not so much with gestures. You could possibly use your hands more, but if you move your head, that halo does come out. I noticed on yours and on Tracy's that just a little movement makes that halo. One of the things I would encourage you to do is to pause more at some points for effect. That would also have given you the time that you needed. And I certainly understand because I tend to talk fast myself. One of the things I'd like to challenge you to do is use questions to engage your audience to make it more personal. That would also, I think, encourage other people to really listen to what you're saying. And good luck with your next speech, Samir. Thank you. Mr. Toastmaster, back to you.
I suppose I should unmute myself before I talk. It was such a smooth introduction to Mike as well. So let me try that again. Evaluating Phil Russell is Mr. Mike Florio. Mr. Florio.
Mr. Toastmaster, thank you, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Phil. Phil. Smooth as usual and always encourageable. I really feel it's appropriate that I'm evaluating Phil because he's been a source of encouragement for me. And I loved this speech this morning. He pulled it right out of his hip pocket, and it was definitely a visionary speech. You could see Walter the way Phil described him, and you were there in that little room with Walter, with his beer and his cookies and his girly magazines. And Phil did a great job of painting a picture for us. Who else but Phil could take a random visit from a post office and turn that into a speech? One that had humor, one that was very entertaining. He brought in key elements of his other speech about being an octogenarian, or is it anyway, living to 100. And who else but Phil would go into somebody's house and help out a 97-year-old who hadn't ate in 10 days? That's amazing. Now, how would I change this speech or add to it, or how could I aid in making it even better? Maybe a photo of Walter would be kind of neat to see, the 97-year-old in this place, or a photo of his truck or the house that he lives in. something like that, but not much more. Phil's gestures were great about how short Walter was or how tall he was. His hand gestures, he may have, wrenched his hands a little bit, but not really anything that was major. Phil's a pro, and I hope to hear Phil's speech, his next one at 100. I want to be there. I want to evaluate that one. So kudos to a wonderful speech. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thanks, Mike, and thanks for stepping up to volunteer for that job as well. Our third speaker was Tracy Farrell. She's being evaluated by Moklis Rahman. Mr. Rahman.
Good morning. Is that too loud? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most significantly, Tracy Farrell. I was delighted to hear her speak on the completion of the path. I don't know if I'm qualified to do it because I haven't completed the path myself yet, but I'll do my best. She has come with a lot of improvement in her process. She had a great beginning. She asked questions. She engaged the audience. What I liked most was a lot of humor in her speech. More humor, especially for a serious topic as completing the path. It made the speech much more engaging and enjoyable. And her story is, of course, encourageable for all of us. What can she do more would be balance between the volume and the pace of the speech. And little bit of small pause to let the audience sink in. Even though your humors were excellent, they did not need any pause, but you continued the journey. Overall, I would say it's a great speech. It's a very good speech in terms of encouraging us to complete the path. And another wonderful thing I noticed in you, the confidence. I know there was a green signal after 5, and you probably got a little jolted. What happened? And then you said, nope, I'm good. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So you continue to march on to your 10-minute speech with confidence, poise, and very good delivery. Overall, I think it's one of your best speech, and I'm looking forward to many updates. Even now, the timers are uncoordinated. I have yellow on one side, and I have green on the other side. So I'm also having the same difficulty. Who is right? Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and thank you, Farrell. Looking forward to more speeches.
Thank you, Mr. Rahman. I guess the colors are the challenges of technology. You have high tech on the left side and low tech on the right. Which one do you believe? Mr. Timer, could we have a timer's report on our evaluators?
I wish to remind my fellow members of AM Lockport Toastmasters that we do have a sub-school in this organization. It is the Dave Licata School of Timing. And I'm happy to report that I think this was one of my better efforts this morning. But to make a long story short, all 3 evaluators did qualify. Beth, 146, Mike, 216, and Moklis, he took advantage of that buffer, that rascal. He was at 227. So we all qualified. And that's it from the Dave Licata School of Timing. Just call 1-800-DAVE and we'll send you your tuition bill.
Thanks, Dave. I guess the good news from that tuition bill is that the president just excused $500 billion, I think, in school loans. So maybe that would apply to your school as well. This could be very good.
Oh yeah, because everything's free now.
See, there you go. Including
Yeah.
timing school now, apparently.
No.
No. And could we, Mr. Moran, would we have a word master report on our evaluators?
Certainly, Mr. Toastmaster. I am quite pleased to announce that all three of our evaluators this morning used the word encourageable.
Very good. And I'm glad because I already voted. So thank God that we used them. Okay, so I have to apologize. If you hear a lot of pounding and loud noises, it's on the wall next to me. You probably never heard of powder post beetles, small little insects that you can't see that ate a good chunk of my garage. And the construction crew is out there now tearing my garage apart and fixing it. So, and that's for a future speech, but just so if you ever wonder why you have sawdust laying next to some wood in your house, powder post beetles. I won't even tell you what those little things are costing me. All right, so I apologize again for the noise. Let's go through reports really quick. We have about almost 20 minutes, so we should have plenty of time. So, Mr. Moran, could you just give us an overall word report? It was a good word, by the way, too.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I've been awfully busy this morning with the word of the day, encourageable. Jackie used it I gave her a 1/2. She used the word encourage. Larry, our Toastmaster this morning, has used it 4 times. Margot used it once. Kate used it once. Phil did not use it. David used it. I gave him a 1 and then 2 halves. Of course, Sylvia, Steve, and Len used it in their table topics. David, our other Dave, I gave a 0.5 to. Tracy, I give her 1.5. Thomas, I give a 1. Dr. Stevens got a 1. Marty did not say the word this morning. Mulkless used the word encourageable when he gave his evaluation. Beth, I gave 1.5 to. Mike, I gave 2 uses of the word. And overall winner for today with 6 uses of the word encourageable was Health. So not only was I word master, emulating it with the word of the day as well. So please try to use that word of the day today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, and congratulations for using the word so much. You may have had an advantage over the rest of us, but that's okay. Our master today, going down the list here, is Kate. Would you like to give us an report? I see her mouth moving.
You will see my mother, but you will hear me because of our audio in our studio. I think Edna would be proud of us. I was inspired to count our so's as well. I only heard 6. And when we were averaging over 20 as a group in person, I'm not sure if my listening skills are weak combined with, maybe we avoid the word so on Zoom. I'm not sure. I'll have to listen next time. I heard 1 from you, Larry, but you spoke so much. That's remarkable. 1 from Tom Moran, 1 from Margot, self-reported, 1 from Samir. Tracy, she has left us. I will send it to her. I stopped at 5, but she had a long speech too. Mom had 1. Gerald's 1 so far. Don't give us any more during your report. I heard during table topics, 3 from Sylvia, 1 from Steve, and more than 5 from Len. They were soft ones, but they were there. Listen to the recording. In any case, thanks very much, Mr. Toastmaster. This was a fantastic meeting and a wonderful speech, a wonderful theme. Thank you again.
Thank you, Kate. Our grammarian is Jackie Kenny. Mrs. Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I heard something from two people today that drives me crazy. Naming someone and then saying her or he or him. Sylvia said her teacher traveled a great deal, her and her husband. Perhaps she could have just said with her husband. And Phil, the postmaster, she told me, no. And you know better. I know you know better. Samir used a phrase, reframe our actions and options, that I liked very much. But he also said issues amongst each other. And I think probably it should be issues among the group or issues with each other. Steve used the phrase, scenes he painted in words, which is lovely. Tracy said she can't blame the dryer for her clothes not fitting, which was terrific. And she also said, members are all bobbleheads. And I think all of us have been in meetings like that, where no one wants to make a decision or speak out, and they just sit there and agree with everything. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jackie. I should clarify something about Oreo cookies because they are my favorite cookie, that they are non-fattening. It might save some anguish later on today. If anybody is worried about that, I can tell you from personal experience that they are.
Does that include the double stuffed ones, Mr. Toastmaster?
You know, I think so. I'm not a double stuff fan. I'm the single guy, but I also like the chocolate covered ones. Now, the chocolate covered, that might be an issue there, but take away the chocolate covering. I think you're okay. Tech and Gesture Master, Mr. Heldwein.
Good morning. It's finally getting light outside, so my lighting is a little bit off. So I will first start with myself. My lighting is atrocious, all coming from one direction and changing throughout the meeting. Inspiration was today's meeting. We can inspire through fear and yell at people. That is only short term. You can do so by example, which I think there are many examples in our group of the proper way for tech and gestures. There's people that do it flawlessly and very, very expressively. And I think that empathy would probably be the greatest one, is understanding. So I'm trying to understand, looking at everyone this morning and concentrating on just a few things. The backgrounds, Phil, Sylvia, Samir, Larry, M, Stephen, Tom, Moran, Margot, Len, Moklis, two separate different backgrounds, and Tracy all had different we all had backgrounds. That's always enjoyable, especially if they change throughout the meeting. It kind of keeps you on your toes. Both Larrys had headsets along with Dave and Phil. I think that definitely helps. There's also two different schools of thought. This is where I'd like to concentrate the report on the distance from the camera and how much of your body is actually in the frame. If you're going to talk with emotion and be a typical, Zoomer or meeting person, you're about this close, and everyone can see your face and your expressions. But all your gestures become very difficult this close. So if you're an expressive talker, they all kind of sit back a little bit further, and up higher, and not quite their navel, but definitely their shoulders, almost to their elbows. So if they reached out, I'm sure that they're just barely, they can't even touch their camera. And this is very expressive distance, because I saw several today where people were just talking with their hands. You could still see them, wringing their hands when they were worried, pointing, talking. I thought that was good. So I think both are good. Both distances are good, depending on what you're trying to get across. And that would be my tech and gesture report, Mr. Tabletop or Mr. Toastmaster. Back to you.
That's okay. I answered pretty much anything. So, and Tom, I guess coming from the military and your background, I'm going to guess that you were, and maybe you don't realize it, maybe you do, that you were probably very inspirational to the people that you interacted with in your role as a drill instructor. I'm going to guess.
Oh, yes. If you'd like a quick inspirational speech, there was a drill sergeant that taught me something that helped me inspire others. And I kept it in my mind always. He was yelling and screaming and being very intimidating. And I had no reaction. He walked up to me, goes, and very quietly, almost only to me, he's like, you know, some people react and get inspired by someone yelling, motivating right in them. But then after a while, you become immune to that. If that's what you've had your whole life, parents yelling at you, smacking you on the back of the head. And it's when you come in close with someone like this and you talk to them and say, you need to do this way. And you talk softly to them, it really comes across and hits. And I remember using that several times, where if I was yelling at people and there were one or two that just weren't getting it, come in close, let's talk softly, and it's something that they have never been used, has never been used to inspire them before. And it does seem to work. So again, empathy of understanding the person you're talking to as to how to inspire them is very important.
Excellent. Excellent. Actually, I was talking to a guy, we're talking about doing some leadership training. And one of the things we talk about was that very topic about nowadays, how you have to, in leadership, tailor your leadership to the individual as opposed to the group. So very expansive thought there. Who do we have left? We have
General evaluator there. Mr.
Well, we have the quiz master yet too, Mr. Farr, yeah. So I'm saving him for last. He is having some internet issues, so I was kind of saving him for last. So
gotcha.
Thank you for the reminder, though. Our quiz master is Marty Johnson, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Larry. And thank you, Tom Moran, for encouraging me to carry on this morning with my role as quizmaster. Who has inspired Larry Eggert during his life? 3 or 4 people, at least.
Dad. Father.
Children.
Daughter.
The big smelly guy at the concert.
Children.
Smelly drug dealer.
Right? Charlie Deacon, his daughter, his father, grandfather. Sylvia's teacher inspired her in what subject, and what was the teacher's name?
It was handwriting. She had great cursive.
Barber?
Mrs. Barber, right on.
I wish.
Steve Smith's author that he mentioned, and he questioned Steve Posey, said, "How did you die?" Who was that author that Steve?
Edgar Allan Poe.
And Len Thornton mentioned someone that inspired him prior to starting his business. Do you remember the person's name?
No, he was a lion.
He was a lion.
Yeah, Richard Cook. And then who did Len say that he was trying to be more incorrigible and less critical to?
His sons.
Right on. Phil Russell's speech that he gave prior to today, he had listed 4 characteristics or 4 things that he felt would help him live to be 106. Which of those 4 variables came up today during his speech about Walter?
Happy.
Right on, happy.
Well,
in Tracy Farrell's speech, she recently completed what path?
A long one.
Innovative planning.
Innovative
2.5
planning.
years.
Way to go, Tracy. Then Beth Banks talked about, let's see here. Beth Banks talked about, she suggested for Samir to use what to engage his audience?
Questions. Personal
Questions,
stories.
right?
Yeah.
What did Mike Florio suggest to Phil Russell to improve his speech?
Picture.
Yeah, picture.
A picture of Walter,
Or the truck.
right, or the truck. In Mowgli's, when he spoke on evaluating Tracy's speech, what did he suggest to improve for Tracy?
Oh dear. Got nothing.
To balance what? To balance, I believe it was the volume and the cadence of her speech. That's what I heard him say.
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay, for those of you that were paying attention to your camera today and your screen, what was the number of members that we maxed out at today?
23.
23, right. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Marty. We've got about 4 minutes left, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Stevens. The pounding, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's getting pretty pretty distracting on my end. So, Dr. Stevens, if it's okay with you, would you be able to close the meeting for me?
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. So today, I had a little difficulty with the internet, but I did switch over to the phone, so I was able to pick up the evaluations. And I will do the best I can with my reports. All three evaluators use a sandwich approach. Beth challenged the speaker. I love that. Conclusion was a little short. I'd like to see a little more impact on the conclusion. We all work on that. So I encourage her to do that again. Mike pointed out Phil's positives for sure. Definitely pointed out his gestures. Could have mentioned vocal variety possibly. Phil was excellent in that. And I do also want to be there when he's 100 years old to hear his speech. So that would be pretty cool. Mokos was very positive, used a sandwich approach, and had great input, I thought, overall. In regards to the Toastmaster, he did introduce me pretty late, but it's okay. He got me in there. I love the theme. Inspiration is definitely something I enjoy hearing from people, and stories that are inspirational is good, I think, for everybody to keep us going in our daily lives. Any other comments from the gallery? I wonder if anybody else would have any comments for our evaluators that I did not think of. Don't have to. Sometimes I just throw it out there just to see if somebody had something else. Our Toastmaster is no longer here, so I will turn the meeting over to the officer of the day, and he can conclude the meeting. I believe it's Samir.
All right. Our ribbon winners are, for table topics, Len Thornton. Congratulations, Len. Great job. For evaluator, Mokos Rahman. Good job. And then correspondingly, for speaker, Tracy Farrell. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful meeting. Does anyone have any additional announcements? It looks like we have 1 minute. Tom Moran, go ahead.
Yes, I'd just like to let my fellow Toastmasters know that the high school DECA program came to a conclusion on Tuesday. They had their final meeting. I was not able to attend it. I was doing some doctoring and wasn't able to attend it, but I do have a copy of the video of them doing their meeting. So I don't know how that's going to evolve next year, given the situation. So I will keep individuals here posted. If I'm not able to help out with the program, maybe another Toastmaster could step up and help Chris with the program. So that's my report for today. Thank you, Mr. presiding officer.
Thank you, Tom. Marty Johnson, are you raising your hand?
I have one quick question. Some of you may know that I'm going to be the Area 11 director, which is the club that AM Lockport resides in. And I just want to throw this out as food for thought for planning purposes. As Tracy mentioned, the area directors need to visit the clubs. And I'd like to hit the ground running and inform you of that, especially the officers and the new officers outgoing and incoming. I would like early July, as soon as possible, if possibly July 1st or July 8th. If there's anything you need me to talk to you about beforehand or any concerns, let me know. But I would like to visit. Obviously, I'm a member, but I'll be at the club. And again, either the 1st or the 8th of July, I would like to preside and be an official officer at your meeting. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I believe Jackie is our Toastmaster next week. Jackie, do you have a theme yet?
I do, and it's on the agenda, investiture.
Investiture. Okay.
And I hope all of you respond to your roles so we can have a full slate and get things going. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, and with that, I will close today's meeting. Stay tuned for post toasties, everyone, and have a great day. Enjoy the beautiful weather.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous day.